Hello again, YouTube. This is Peter with you once again, and this is going to be a video for my faithful viewers, my longtime subscribers, because I make videos so infrequently over the last few years that every time I post a video, I always get people saying, "Welcome back." And it just reminds me that in my mind, I would like to make a video at least every month, if not every couple of weeks, and instead months and months and months drag on. I get distracted by various and sundry things. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, about what I've been up to, the places I may or may not go in the future in terms of making videos for this channel, and I might post a poll in this video if I can figure out how to manage that. At any rate, what have I been up to? Well, aside from the usual things like work and sleep, let's see, video games. This is something that's really been only in the last year or so because, as I've talked about in the past, I've never been a massive gamer, which I could do an entire video about my history with video games, but that's not all that relevant. But, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago, I bought a Wii U, and I started playing Breath of the Wild, and that took up like 300 hours of my life. And I also more recently got a Switch, and I also started to get into some more PC games. I bought the Witcher series finally. It was on sale. I don't remember what, it must have been Christmas sale or something like that. And I started playing the first Witcher game, and I'm really struggling not to just jump ahead to The Witcher 3 because that's the one that everyone loves, and I don't think you need to really play the other two games. But what it really comes down to is the first Witcher game has strange mechanics. It was very clunky. Just figuring out the combat system, I had to go and watch tutorials and read. It completely threw my brain through a loop trying to figure out the combat system in The Witcher 1. Also, something about the game makes me motion sick if I play it for too long. And that's something maybe if I just play it more consistently, I'll start to get over that, because that sometimes happens with video games. But that's one of the reasons that I don't play a lot of video games, is because I do get motion sickness from games. So playing The Witcher 1, trying to get through it, I'm kind of like, I'm starting to get queasy. I got to turn this off, and then that puts me off from playing more of it. But I want to play the games in order, so of course, maybe I should just give in to the impulse to just jump into The Witcher 3, but who knows, maybe that'll make me motion sick as well. By the way, in case you're wondering, I have read the books, and I have recently watched the Netflix series, in case you're wondering that. So it's not entirely video games. I've also been doing tabletop games as well. I used to play some the Game of Thrones card game a lot, and Netrunner, and those have sort of fizzled out. And lately I've been doing more D&D. But, yeah, other than work and sleep and games, it's not that I've entirely given up on YouTube or forgotten about it. It's more that, for one thing, the YouTube landscape has changed vastly in the last 6 or 7 years, or however long it's been since I was really at my peak in terms of creating YouTube videos. It's changed vastly since then, not only in terms of the algorithms and how you manage building a channel, but also what sort of topics are relevant. And I think my own channel has gone through a kind of, let's say, identity crisis in terms of what I should be making videos about. And so I end up making occasional one-off videos about random social topics, maybe something that's topical of the moment, and then movie reviews. And I personally feel that I should be doing far less movie reviews, because I rarely feel, you know what, I really have an interesting take on this movie that's completely different from the 10,000 other people who also talked about this movie. And it's not that I'll never do any more movie reviews, but I think that I should just relegate them to a separate channel unless I have a specific reason to talk about them. For example, this movie 1917 that some of you might have seen. It's less that I want to make a review of the movie, but more that I have an idea for a video about talking about how I don't think that the criticism that the movie is too simple of a story, it's a very simple story, I don't think that criticism holds a lot of weight. And I could do an entire video on that. And I think that would be more appropriate for this channel than just a normal review of this movie, because that movie got plenty of reviews. Oh, it's shot as if it's one continuous shot and that sort of thing. Yes, it's very technically impressive. Yada, yada, yada. But I think I want to move away from doing movie reviews. But again, going into the subject of something I could create an entire video much like this on, I've been thinking about doing more political style videos. And yet, and I don't want to make this a long tangent, perhaps I'll record a separate long tangent specifically about my thoughts on the very idea of making political videos. I don't really want to make videos that are very partisan. Like, here's why you should support Medicare for all, or here's why you should be against such and such. Because, like many people who major in philosophy, I minored in political science. I maybe it was just where I went to university, but that seemed to be a very common thing amongst philosophy majors, was to minor in political science. And my take on politics is often very meta. It's not that I don't have opinions on individual issues, but sometimes I feel that those can be very distracting from broader issues that people don't really think about or discuss enough. And if I'm going to make videos on politics, they'd probably be more at a meta level, a level of political theory, or just generally speaking broad, rather than blatantly partisan, here's why you should vote for candidate so-and-so, that sort of thing. But then again, I also feel like I want to explore my political views with an audience, because I don't feel represented by any particular party or any particular ideology, and I think that a lot of the debates that people do have, they're just in many ways fundamentally confused and muddled. And so let me just toss out a couple of ideas that I'm interested in talking about. Number one, I think that the right, Republicans, conservatives in general, they need the culture war because their policies are hot garbage. And there's an example of an entire subject I could do a video on. Or I could do an entire video on how I think that most libertarians, except some of the ones that actually vote for the Libertarian Party, the Republican pseudo-libertarians, if you prefer, are basically what Lenin would call useful idiots. They're useful idiots for the rich. There's another political subject to talk about. I could also talk about how I have a very anti-utopian and cynical view of any kind of political theory. So on the left, there's also often this discussion between there's the centrist liberals, or there's liberals and leftists, and one wants to reform the system and one wants to tear it down and have revolution. And I have definite opinions on that. Let's just say if you want to tear this system down and rebuild it, best of luck with that. Because here's the thing. When you go to rebuild that system, all of the same people are going to be the material that you have to build this from. I basically think that all institutions have a constant Sisyphean battle with dysfunction. And in order to have any sort of complex society, you need institutions. So there's really not going to be any such thing as a perfect society. That's something I could talk about more in depth in a video. I also have other videos in mind about more specific topics, you know, my hot takes or spilling the tea or whatever the hell kids say nowadays, that sort of thing. But I'll level with you guys about where I've sort of reached, the point that I've kind of reached with making YouTube videos, because I think there comes a definite point where if you want to make high quality videos and be, I don't know if the word's respected for it, known for it, build a brand, build a channel, eventually you're going to have to put in more and more effort. Maybe you'll script your videos, you'll invest in expensive lighting and camera. Oh wait, I already did that. Never mind. You will put more time and thought and energy into making your videos and polish them. Maybe it's not just scripting, but editing. Maybe you'll do little skits. Maybe you get the green screen involved. All of these things. And although I'm not incapable of doing those things, oftentimes I go, okay, here's the level of video I want to make. Here's down here, somewhere, maybe more down here, is the amount of time, effort, and energy that I'm willing to put in. So more often than not, I maybe make an extemporaneous video like what you're watching now, and then I say, well, that's not really what I want to be doing. I want to make better, more polished videos because those are the sorts of things that are going to gain some momentum on YouTube. As my channel has declined over the years, maybe I can regain some of that ground. But then I think to myself, you know what? I just don't know if I feel like putting that much effort into it, because there was definite points where YouTube felt like it wasn't fun or interesting and engaging, and that adds to the why should I bother factor. But I do feel that I've come back around to wanting to make more videos again, and trying to find a balance between putting a amount of effort that into the videos that I really could only justify if I was doing this full time, which I'm not, versus just half-assing it, trying to find a balance, because I've been just doing this for long enough that I can put in get into a certain flow and create videos without going overboard into production and scripting, and yet still achieve a reasonable level of quality. So I'm hoping that if I can just maintain a certain focus on the topics and have a plan going forward, pick out a topic a month, maybe make in between that a more offhand video. And so if I can maintain a production schedule of a couple videos a month. I've been sandboxing all kinds of ideas lately, everything from doing video game streaming to doing what I refer to as monthly cast, where maybe once a month I do a live stream. I don't even know. I know they did something with the YouTube live stream a while ago that may or may not affect my ability to do that. But I don't want to commit myself to say I'm going to create 2 videos a month and I'm going to do a live thing every such and such amount of time, because for those of you who have been watching my videos for a long time, basically if I say I'm going to make video X, then I'm almost guaranteed not to make that video. The videos that I mention I'm going to make in a video are almost never the videos that I actually make. I think what I struggle most with in terms of having a YouTube channel is that in the modern era of YouTube, more so than ever, you have to be very focused on having a brand and being on brand, and you're going to create a certain sort of video, and you're going to have a certain release schedule for those videos so that the audience knows exactly what to expect and when to expect it. And I feel like a dying breed of OG YouTuber who turns on their camera and rants about things and attempts to focus, and I'm an ADD person who's attempting to explain my non-linear thought process in a linear fashion with a minimal amount of tangents, and that can be difficult sometimes. And it can be difficult to sit down and try and focus on a script or to stick to one topic that I'm going to consistently talk about. And again, I do have ideas aside from the things that I've already said. One major thing that I'm going to start doing, and going back to what I said before, I say I'm going to start doing it, and this will probably never happen, but book reviews, I think I'm going to have, give it some sort of title, like Book Report with Peter, something like that. And yeah, I can play that game as well. I can come up with clever titles that make for nice playlists and consistently brand certain videos about certain subjects with those titles and start to develop something of a brand. But it's, I feel, always going to be a bit here, there, and everywhere. Some people enjoy that, and some people don't. But I think in order to pull that off correctly, you have to have somewhat of a cult of personality around you, and I've never really been comfortable with that sort of thing. I'm not a massively charismatic person. I'm probably even more aloof than I seem in person, and I'm not super photogenic or camera ready, and so I feel like basically I'm the sort of person that you would meet in a dive bar listening to music. And in fact, I have been recognized before by someone from YouTube, recognizing me from YouTube, have been recognized in a dive bar. Whereas a lot of popular YouTubers, they're the sort of person you would encounter at a mall kiosk buying a new case, a clever new case for their iPhone. And of course, it's an iPhone, right? Unless they're a tech blogger, then they have like 27 different types of phones, including Android phones, right? So, again, maybe I'm just not the right sort of person to achieve a certain status on YouTube, but I've never really aimed for that. There's a part of me that when I see people panicking over the new ad revenue apocalypse and all these other things, all these changes on YouTube, changes to the algorithm, it affects me to some extent. I've said in the past that I've never really made much money off of ad revenue. I'd be surprised if I made more than about $500 in ad revenue in the more than 10 years that I've been doing YouTube. It's probably getting closer to 15 at this point. And I don't have a Patreon. Not that I've completely ruled out having a Patreon, but I've, for various and sundry reasons, never looked to this platform to make a livelihood. Maybe I should have at some point, but at various points I was just focused on different things in my life, or I always felt, above all of that, that it wasn't the sort of thing that could necessarily be relied on. It's exactly the sort of thing, like with the ad revenue, or with the thing about is this a channel for children, the most recent thing, that all of it could have, the rug could just be ripped out from under you. And I'm not the sort of person that's just like, I don't care, I'm dedicating my life to making a go at making YouTube videos. I've never been inclined to do that. But at the same time, it does bug me that they just like, well, if you're not making us money, then we're just going to bury your videos, and not even the people who subscribe to you are going to see them, except for a select few, so we're just going to make you more and more irrelevant unless you play our little reindeer games, right? That annoys me more than the potential loss of revenue from the various changes to the site. So for those of you who have made it this far into the video, however long it ends up being, 20 minutes or whatever, or 10 minutes if you're like me and you watch everything at double speed, that it isn't a music video, then I want to congratulate you by giving you something of a survey. First of all, I would like you to describe what you see the brand of this channel being. What's my brand? How would you attempt to describe this channel to somebody else? That's first thing. Second thing, what sort of videos that I make do you like most? And what, generally speaking, kinds of videos are you interested in seeing from me? Also, this one-time only offer. This would normally be a deal only offered to top-level Patreon subscribers, but you can now suggest to me specific topics you would like to see YouTube videos on. I can't promise I'll actually make videos on the topic, but yes, I am right now opening up the floor to suggest topic suggestions, and if I find it interesting, I will consider making a video about it. And I'm joking aside, yeah, usually that is the sort of thing you have to pay good money for on someone's Patreon to get to be able to do, but I'm letting you, the loyal viewers, do it for free. At any rate, there was another thing I was going to ask. I don't know. I think that's it. What do you see as my brand? What sort of videos that I make do you like? That's all I have for right now. Have a good whatever time it is.